Do you believe that a single prayer can make eternal illness disappear in an instant? The story you're about to hear will challenge everything you think you know about faith, that invisible, yet undeniable force that even doctors struggle to explain. A few years ago, a woman named Maria in Italy was diagnosed with late-stage cancer. Doctors told her she had only a few months left to live. The disease spread rapidly, draining her strength each day. Her hair fell out, her skin turned pale, and the light in her eyes began to fade. But instead of despairing, Maria chose to do something extraordinary in the face of death. She prayed every single day, even when the pain made it impossible to move. She placed a small crucifix on her chest and whispered, "Lord Jesus, if it is your will, please heal me." Her prayers weren't for herself alone. She also prayed for others who were suffering, asking God to bring them peace and strength. Then, one morning, as sunlight poured through her hospital window, Maria felt a warmth spreading throughout her body. She thought it was a dream, but when the nurse came to check on her, something miraculous had happened. Her body temperature had stabilized. Her breathing became calm, and the unbearable pain had completely vanished. The next medical tests left the entire hospital staff speechless. The tumor was gone. There was no medical explanation, no rational theory. It was as if the cancer had never existed. Word of the miracle spread quickly. People came from nearby towns not just to see Maria, but to hear her speak about the power of prayer. She told them, "When I stopped being afraid and truly believed, Jesus touched me." The true miracle wasn't only in her physical healing, but in how she was healed, through complete surrender to the love of Christ. Her tears of despair turned into tears of gratitude. The hospital room that once echoed with pain became a sanctuary filled with hymns, prayers, and hope. If you're watching this right now, take a moment to reflect. Do you truly believe that Jesus still performs miracles today? Write your thoughts in the comments. Your words might just become part of someone else's miracle, because what happened next will astonish you. A man who had been in a coma for 40 days suddenly opened his eyes and said he had seen Jesus standing before him in a radiant light. When a person lies motionless for 40 days, completely disconnected from the world, most would say that a miracle is impossible. But the story of Antonio, a man from Spain, changes everything we think we know about human limits and about the mysterious power of faith. Antonio was in a severe car accident on his way home from a night shift. He was rushed to the hospital with a traumatic brain injury. Doctors said his chances of survival were less than 1%. His family prayed day after day, but as the weeks passed, hope began to fade. On the 40th day, the doctors suggested removing the life support to let him go in peace. But his wife refused. With tears in her eyes, she said, "I believe Jesus is still with him." That night, something beyond understanding happened. As the nurses switched shifts, the monitor beside Antonio's bed began to flicker. His heartbeat was rising. Slowly, his eyelids opened. He didn't look around in confusion like most coma patients. Instead, he gazed upward, as if speaking to someone unseen. Then, he began to weep. When he finally regained his voice, Antonio told them what he had experienced during those 40 silent days. He said he had been in a place filled with radiant light, peaceful beyond words, a place where time didn't exist. "I saw Jesus," he whispered, "not as an image, but as a living presence. He looked at me and smiled. Then he said, 'Your mission is not over. Go back and tell the world that I am still working among them.'" The entire hospital was shaken by his story. Doctors reviewed every file, every scan, but found no scientific explanation. They could only stand in silence before the man who had returned from the edge of death, now walking, speaking, and shining with life. After his recovery, Antonio never returned to his old job. Instead, He began visiting churches, hospitals, and rehabilitation centers to share his testimony. He would stand before the crowd and say, "Jesus is not just a figure from the Bible. He's alive, walking among us. When your heart opens to him, he will come." Some believed instantly, others doubted, but everyone who met Antonio felt something profound in his presence, a light in his eyes that no lamp could ever create. If you're watching this right now, maybe you've also faced moments when faith felt distant, when everything seemed lost. Take a moment. Click like on this video as a declaration of faith. I believe Jesus still works in my life, and share your thoughts in the comments. Your story might become the seed of faith that helps someone else believe again. But the journey of miracles doesn't stop here. What happened next to a little child who wasn't supposed to survive heart surgery will move the world to tears. No one could forget that June morning at San Pietro Hospital in Italy, when the doctors announced the boy's chance of survival is 0.1%. Matteo, only 8 years old, was born with a rare heart defect. His tiny heart could only function with the help of a machine, and the upcoming surgery was his final hope, or perhaps his last goodbye. His mother knelt beside his hospital bed, clutching his small hand. She had no tears left to cry, but instead of giving up, she placed a small statue of Jesus beside Matteo's pillow and whispered, "My son, Jesus is here. Whatever happens, remember, he loves you more than anyone else." The boy, pale and weak, nodded slightly and murmured, "I'm not afraid, because Jesus will hold my hand." The surgery lasted more than 8 hours. Outside the operating room, the family and local believers prayed fervently, their voices trembling. No one dared to say aloud what they feared most. Then suddenly, the power in the room flickered. The monitors began flashing erratically. Matteo's heart had stopped. The surgical team froze. The lead surgeon, a man known for his atheism, looked up at the screen and whispered, "We've lost him." But at that very moment, something extraordinary happened. While attempting one final resuscitation, the doctor heard a voice in his mind, calm, firm, unmistakable. "Don't give up. I am here." Shocked but compelled, he followed the impulse and pressed the defibrillator one more time. And then, Matteo's heart started beating again. The nurse screamed in disbelief. The doctor stood motionless, sweat pouring down his face, realizing something far greater than science had just taken place. When Matteo woke up days later, he told his mother that he had been sleeping in a field of light. There was no pain, no fear, only peace. "A man in white came to me," he said softly. He smiled and said, "You must go back. Many people need to know about me." When Matteo asked who he was, the man replied, "I'm Jesus." News of the miracle spread across Italy. The once skeptical surgeon publicly spoke before cameras, saying, "I can't explain what happened. I only know that at the moment I gave up, a force beyond me told me to act, and the boy lived." Today, Matteo is a healthy teenager. Every year, on the anniversary of his surgery, he and his mother visit the same church, kneel before the statue of Jesus, and pray for the children who are fighting for their lives. The miracle was not only in Matteo's survival, it was in our faith, reignited the hearts of those who witnessed it. A doctor who once believed only in science began to pray. Families found hope again, and even those who doubted felt something shift deep within their souls. Because sometimes, miracles are not meant to prove God's power, but to remind us that He has never left. He is there, even in the cold, sterile light of an operating room, guiding trembling hands when all logic fails. But this is not the end, for in a small, forgotten village in Brazil, another miracle was about to take place, where a blind mother would see light for the first time in her life, after a simple prayer whispered to Jesus. In a poor village in Brazil, where small houses cling to the hillsides and church bells ring each morning, lived a woman named Lucia. She had been blind since birth. Darkness was all she had ever known. Yet, Lucia never blamed God. She often told people, "I cannot see the sun, but I feel the light of God in my heart." Lucia lived with her young son, Pedro. Their life was hard, but filled with love. Every day, Pedro guided his mother to the church, holding her hand as they carefully walked over uneven stones. He read the Bible aloud to her, and she memorized every word, as if she could see the letters with her heart. One day, Pedro fell seriously ill with a high fever. The village doctor said he needed to be transferred to the city immediately, or his life would be at risk. Lucia had no money. All she could do was kneel by her bed, holding her small wooden crucifix, whispering, "Lord Jesus, please do not take the only light I have in my life. If it is your will, grant me eyes, so I can care for my son." That night, Lucia had a dream. A radiant light filled her room, brighter than anything she had ever imagined. A warm voice echoed, "Lucia, you will see again, but not to behold the world, to see me." She reached out, and a hand touched hers, warm, gentle, as if it were light itself. When she woke, Lucia opened her eyes, and for the first time in her life, she saw Pedro lying beside her. She saw the roundness of his eyes, the wet lashes, the curve of his lips. She cried and laughed at the same time, trembling. "My son, I can see you." News of the miracle spread quickly through the village. People came to witness the woman who had been blind all her life now seeing. Yet, what moved them most was not merely that her eyes could see, but how she described her encounter in the dream. "I didn't just see light," she told them. "I saw him, and when I looked into Jesus' eyes, I understood that all the suffering in my life was a path leading to his love." After the miracle, Lucia and Pedro traveled to share their story. She emphasized one essential truth: a miracle is not only when your eyes see, but when your heart believes. Journalists, doctors, and even priests confirmed that there was no medical explanation for her recovery. Her eyes, damaged since birth, should never have been able to see. Yet now, she could read books, watch the sunrise, and recognize every familiar face in her church. Lucia's story rejuvenated the village. People began praying more, trusting more, and loving more. An elderly priest said, when Lucia's eyes were opened, "Perhaps we all had our eyes opened out of the darkness of doubt. The world may think miracles belong only to the past. Yet in humble villages, among the most unassuming people, Jesus continues his quiet work, not with thunder, but through tears and tiny acts of faith. And in the final chapter of this journey, we will witness the most astonishing miracle of all: a man who had lost everything, his health, his family, and his faith, would be healed by Jesus in a way no one could have ever imagined. In a small city in the Philippines, there lived a man named Raphael. He had once been the pillar of his family, but a series of tragedies struck him relentlessly. A terminal illness drained his body and strength. A massive fire destroyed his home, and finally, he lost contact with his wife and children, who had to relocate to escape the smoke and flames. Raphael sank into despair. He had no faith, no hope, only pain and solitude. One day, while sitting by the riverbank, Raphael watched the sunlight glint off the waves and felt a whisper in his heart. "Seek me, and you will be healed." The voice was faint, almost imperceptible, but it sent shivers down his spine. Driven by a strange sense of hope, he decided to visit a small church in the city, a place where people came to pray and find peace. Inside the church, Raphael met an elderly priest. The man spoke very little, but he handed Raphael a small wooden crucifix and said gently, "Hold this, pray, and open your heart to him." For the first time in years, Raphael knelt, clutching the cross, and poured out all his suffering, every loss, every moment of despair, to Jesus. The following days brought unexpected changes. Raphael's illness, once thought to be unstoppable, began to ease. His body regained strength, but the greater miracle was within his soul. Raphael's faith returned. He reconnected with his family, sought forgiveness where needed, and embraced the love that had never truly left him. In a dream that night, he saw Jesus standing beside him, smiling, placing a comforting hand on his shoulder, and saying, "You are never abandoned. I have always been here." Raphael's story spread through his community, touching the hearts of many. People began to realize that miracles are not only about physical healing, they are about restoring the spirit, rekindling hope, and awakening faith. Even those who had once lost all trust in life found themselves opening their hearts again, learning that Jesus' presence is constant, found in every prayer, every small act of love, and every moment of surrender. If you've watched this story until now, take a moment to click like as a way to affirm that you believe in miracles still happening today, and if you haven't yet subscribed to the channel, do so, you won't miss more inspiring stories of hope and divine intervention. Because sometimes, the miracle you're searching for may already be on its way to you, sparked by a single heartfelt prayer and an open heart ready to receive it.